There are some incredible tutorials on the internet, from the smash hits like Motor Trek to the iconic and detailed instructions of Chris Birch, and that great series called... no, I forget what it's called. Anyway. For me, however, the best bang for your buck are skills drills. Little drills and things to practice that are actually going to make you a better rider at an accelerated rate. I've scoured the internet looking for the most intriguing skills drills, the ones that differ from your bog standard U-turn, standing or wheelie tutorial. These kind of tutorials, well, we've all got them. In my experience of teaching, the most effective drills for improving your skills are often simple, creative, and really not that clickbaity on social media. So I've put together a list, grabbed some cones, we're going to see what the internet has for us. The first drill that we've got today is by a YouTube channel and a training school called the MX Factory. It's run by a guy called Tyler, and it is currently, and has been for quite a long time, one of my favorite channels. Has some incredibly creative drills, and while they're motocross focused, not enduro or adventure bike, I think there's a lot of carryover to be had there. So let's jump into this first one. 295,000 views on this. It's a short, so this will be quick.
I don't think anyone's doing this because I feel like that maybe I invented it. We call it the paper plate drill. We've also created our own here to make it a little easier, but this is something simple that you can do at home. The idea, and we're just gonna use paper because we don't have any paper plates, but the idea here is to create strength in our inner thighs when we are loosening against the bike, because we all think that we're squeezing more than we actually are. So what we're gonna do, you're gonna take some paper plates and slide them in here. Then you're gonna have someone holding you up, and then you're just gonna let go, get the bike in second or third gear, and ride as many laps as you can without letting those paper plates fall out.
This is a really interesting one because it also raises a little bit the subject of when you should be squeezing the bike and when you shouldn't, and how varied that is for adventure bike riding. So we're going to try and replicate what he's doing here and see how it feels. So I laid out a little slalom with some cones so that I had a course to follow, and then I figured out how to get that paper between both of my legs and the bike, and then set about figuring out what was going on with this drill. So there's a limit to how slow you can go when you do this. Because once you go below a certain speed, you start to need a little bit of separation. Just a little bit. Interesting one though, because it is much more of an MX style way of riding. You're a lot closer to the bike, a lot more connected. Knees not really moving, all the movements coming from like your hips. You want to make it turn, it's all coming. You're still pushing and controlling the bike with your knee. It's a very different way of riding to like a trialsy style. It's much more how I learnt to ride. Paper's still there, like a boss. That drill was way better than I was expecting it to be, actually. It kind of looks a little bit like a gimmick, and I'm not a big believer in always squeezing the bike, but actually with the paper, you don't need to squeeze that hard. I think it's more about making sure that you have contact so that if you need to squeeze, you can. It's going to be a great drill if you never ever use your legs to hold on to the bike, or if you are one of those people who struggles a little bit with like hip separation, so that you can use your hips to counterbalance the bike without letting go of the contact. This is much more one of those drills that's appropriate to faster style riding. Like if you're doing tight technical stuff, you do start to need quite a lot of bike body separation. But as soon as you have any speed, 10, 15 miles an hour, you want to start to lock in a little bit more on the bike. That's why you see people who are riding rally and so on are always tight to the bike. Their toes are in, their heels are down. As soon as there's any speed, that's how you should ride. And this is a really good drill for working on your lower body technique. The tricky bit is doing this on my own. You're just getting the paper in there while I ride away. That's a little bit hard. But otherwise, this next tutorial, I don't think they need much introduction. Brett is a staple of adventure bike tutorials on YouTube, and I think he is probably the best helmet to hat transitioner in the world. Like, you'll never see me go helmet to buff on my head in one sweep. That's like a 4-minute operation to figure out how to do all of that. The man is world class. But the other thing that Brett does is he teaches a lot. And I think when you teach a lot, you have to solve problems in people's riding in kind of clever and efficient ways, and that leads you to come up with some really good drills. So let's dive into this one. I have had a go at this drill a few times myself in other situations, but let's give it a watch and see what we think.
So as you come in, you can get the front wheel on the backside. And as soon as the axle lines up, make a hard left. And you're trying to run almost parallel, like you're getting hooked into an edge.
That's a pretty grippy looking log that he's doing this on. It looks hard. And when I've done this before, if the conditions are right, this is super rideable and quite easy to do. But it really relies on you having good conditions. A little bit of moisture helps. The log, the slide, the ground, the wheel spin, all of those things. But also finding a log to do this can be quite tricky.
Trap. That allows the back wheel to run into the log, and then you're on both sides. That sets you up so you can actually practice the grinding, and that's the idea. Once you get moving down, keep one wheel on the other and the back wheel on this side. If you happen to miss it, just ride over the log, come back around and try again. And if you end up crossing up on the log, just back it up right over the top, and then again, give it another shot. So that's the first part, is just getting the hook.
To do this, I first had to find a spot where I could, and the best I managed to find was some square edge 4x4 ruts. For the most part, I think the principles are the same, it's just maybe a touch easier. The more I rode around the ruts here and changed ruts and climbed out of them and did U-turns, the more I realized, okay, I do actually use some sort of variation of this technique quite a lot. And that is a really useful thing for changing ruts, dealing with slippery roots, rutty environments in general, being able to deal with that change in balance of your bike, and quite a significant change in balance of your bike is a very useful thing. This is kind of a cool way to practice it, and it looks cool on Instagram. However, I think the limit of this exercise is finding a place to effectively learn this in a progressive way. And within that limitation, I think this kind of puts it at a place where it's useful, but maybe only in the right circumstances as a lesson or a drill to get you better. Good lesson needs the right environment. On to the next one. This is by one of my personal favorite channels. The channel is called IRC Tire USA Moto, but really this is Rich Larson. He's an extreme enduro rider from the States. He has great hair. He has an intense personality and a beautiful riding style. So
try switching from engaged clutch to rear brake and then back to engaged clutch while staying on the incline without moving at all. Roll forward on the incline. Slow your movement and find the right amount of slip with the clutch and pull of gravity backwards to keep you in one position. Then fully engage the rear brake and fully pull in the clutch and roll off the throttle, letting the bike idle. Now, slightly roll back on the throttle, slip the clutch to the friction zone, then release the brake. The goal is to not move at all, no matter the steepness. When switching between clutch and rear brake, and vice versa, slightly overlap each engagement and disengagement. This will help keep that bike in one position. This is a great practice of coordination as
this drill is about learning the motor patterns of where the bike point is on your clutch and where it isn't. And it's super useful for hill starts and difficult pulling away situations or technical riding in general. It looks easy when he does it, but he is an elite level, not top of the top, but an elite level extreme enduro rider. Like, he is incredibly skilled and very precise with his riding and super analytical. I think this is going to be hard. So let's go and have a go. Is that it's really, really good for drilling the positions you need to hold a bike on a hill using just the clutch and throttle, which is really the foundation of a good hill start. That's where it starts. So to start with, I think he holds the bike on the, I'm going to move forwards just a tiny bit. He holds the bike on the rear brake, and then he cycles between holding it on the rear brake and letting go of the rear brake and then holding it on the clutch and throttle. Now, I think when you do this, you have to get it held on the clutch and throttle first and then come off the rear brake and then go back on and let go. You have to have some overlap, because otherwise you're going to go rear brake, off, and then try to catch it. And that's going to be really difficult. It's going to help enormously when you go to when you go to doing your hill starts in the real world. And for me, in the real world, being able to do a phenomenally perfect hill start is one of the most useful skills in your adventure riding. It's really important. So here we go. First one, there we go. Hold on the clutch and throttle, back to the clutch and throttle, brake. There we go. Okay, we're getting that. He's definitely better at this than I am. This is my third go at doing this for different camera angles, and we're getting better. So one of the things I've noticed in the video with Rich is that he brings the clutch in a long way on his clutch cam. Hopefully you can see this. He's bringing it in this far and then going back out to the bite point again. And this is something in my own riding that I know I'm not the best at. I often bring the clutch in too far. When we've done clutch control exercises before, and you can see it on the camera, I'm like, oh, I bring the clutch in too far. That's a bit of a mistake in my own riding. A bit much aggression there. And he does the same, but I'm not sure if it's for demonstration purposes or what. But I really think actually you should only be bringing the clutch in just a tiny bit. That drill it's good. I don't think it falls into the category of great. It's not one of those drills that's going to instantly transform a segment of your riding, but it is going to help you drill that position so that your clutch starts and those moments where you're on a hill where you suddenly roll backwards are going to get better. I wouldn't go out of my way to make a day around specifically practicing that one thing. There's drills where that fall into that category. This isn't one of those. That's a lot for these drills. I hope you found them useful. What I would love from this video is to look down in the comments and see a bunch of links to amazing drills that have helped make you a better rider than you were quickly and efficiently. Otherwise, remember, life's better when you're riding.